Okay, fine. So last time I think what we did was about package. Okay, fine. The use of package statement, the import statement, and import also used with static. Fine. Okay, and yeah, and then for the purpose of package, right? All our files, class files, they were organized into different folders. And the Java files were organized according to the package declaration. So, any questions?
Instead of using command prompt,
Yeah.
can we directly go to the Explorer and make those directories and do it?
Yeah.
Because command prompt.
Yeah, that's okay. It's only about just those folders should be there with the proper spellings. Uppercase, lowercase will have to be taken care about the directories, and because that's the package name is case sensitive, right? So according to the package, it is looking for the folder. So case sensitive package name, the folder names should be there. So it's fine, whatever way, right? And in fact, actually, you will not be required to do all of these things. Okay, once you start using the IDE, so there are IDEs available, and yes, if you use them, fine. But then by using IDE, you would realize about the requirement, basically how it is working. Okay. Fine. So you can work even if you do not have an IDE. That should be one thing. And many times you may have to maybe connect to a remote place, which is a server, and want to fix something, right? You want to be able to compile and do some things, a few things on a remote machine. Okay, fine. Just by connecting to that machine. So that time, no IDE will not be working for you. Okay, and so you may have some situations like this. Okay. And so, yeah, so my idea was this, that yes, you should at least have the knowledge about compiling things even without a with packages from command line. Okay. Now onwards, yes, if you like, you can always start using the IDEs now. Okay. But first exercise should be, yes, you should be able to organize the classes and whatever else we have into packages and then do this. Okay. One more exercise I think we'll do here is we would like to be generating the documentation also. Fine, we have seen that java.doc command earlier. Okay, so now we'll see, and that time I think we had used some switch for which we didn't okay, for which I didn't explain why we have done. Okay, there was that switch called minus package, if you recollect. Okay, fine, we had done that with minus package. Okay. Okay. Okay, fine. So I think today, yeah, a few things are there, but yeah, any questions, any other questions if you have? Yeah. Okay, fine. Then we proceed. Okay. Okay. Fine. So the first thing we would like to look today is there is a keyword called final. Okay. Fine. So final is a modifier. Fine. Final keyword is a modifier for classes. Fine. we can have this modifier used for methods, and this modifier can also be used with variables. And any variable you are declaring, you could declare it to be final also. Okay, fine. So classes, methods, and variables, and these can always be declared as final. Let's see the meaning of final. Okay, so okay, fine. Yeah. Okay. So let's start with the first one. Let's say, okay. So what is a final class, right? Let's see this. When a class is declared as final, fine. Okay. Then we cannot subclass it. Okay. So final class cannot have any subclasses. Okay. Okay, fine. Example in our case, let's say we had that class cuboid using inheritance. Fine. And if you wanted, someone could say, okay, let's make a further subclass and add one more variable, right? There are 3 dimensions, let's make it 4 dimensions or something like that. Okay, or some other attribute was to be added, and therefore someone says, okay, let's make a subclass for that. So if we declare the class cuboid, which is with inheritance, to be a final class, okay, then that would not be allowed. Okay, there are examples of final classes from the Java API. For example, the string class is final. Okay, so this is example of a final class from the library, and so the idea would be, so suppose, right, someone says, okay, let's have a class called myString. Okay, fine. So fine. So if someone tries such a thing, or that would be invalid. Okay, fine. So the meaning of final classes, we cannot have a subclass. Okay, no further subclassing. Okay, fine. Okay, when a method is declared as final, let's look at the method. When a method is declared as final, right, it cannot be overridden in a subclass. So a subclass cannot be overriding a okay. Fine. Subclass cannot be overriding a final method. Okay, fine. For example, okay, if we had declared, okay, area in rectangle as final, okay, and if we had done this, okay, then the cuboid which is as a subclass could not have overridden the method. Okay, so we could have said, okay, this is like we have area as length into width in the rectangle class, and that's final. No subclass will be able to ever redefine it or say, okay, I want it to be length into height or something like that, the way we have done. that could have been prevented by declaring area as final in the rectangle class. Right? So final methods cannot be overridden in a subclass. Okay, fine. Now third thing is about a variable. Okay, so when a variable is declared as final, it cannot be assigned a value after its initialization. Okay, once a variable has been, if a variable is final and if it has been set to a value, right, yes, maybe with an assignment, after that no other assignment is allowed. So assignment only once. Okay. Okay, fine. Let's look at the type of variables we have seen so far. What are the different types of variables we have seen? Fine. It's not with respect to the data types we are talking about, yes, but with the kind of variables we have. What are the different kinds of variables we have seen? Yeah. What kind of variables can we have? We can have instance variables. We have the class variable or the static variable. Okay. We have the local variables and okay. Then we have the parameter variables. In the parameter list, you are passing a variable. Okay. So yeah, so far we have seen these, right? Okay. So any of these variables may be declared to be final. Okay. Any of these variables may be declared to be final. Okay. So a final variable will need an initialization. Remember this. It needs a initialization. Okay. Some initial value is needed for final variables, and we cannot go, oh, it has a default value because it's an instance variable. It has a default value. No, you will need an initialization. Okay, fine. Let's take it in the order like this. Okay, what we'll do is we'll go through that final keyword for each and everything. Mainly it's concerning the initialization. Okay, right. So initialization, yes, only for the purpose of initialization, a final variable will be given an assignment. Okay, after that no other assignment, and it cannot appear on the left hand side of an assignment. Okay, so final variable cannot be on the left hand side of an assignment unless it is for the initialization. Okay, and then for each of them, yes, let's see how the initialization takes place. So for class variables, okay, when is it getting initialized? Initialized by assignment at the place of declaration. Okay, fine. So this is one. Okay, fine. So class variable initialized by assignment at the place of declaration. What's the next thing? A class variable. How can it be initialized? Example. Okay, let me give an example of this. So someone might have declared, okay, maybe I declare a static variable inside the static variable in the rectangle class, let's say. Okay, fine. So someone says, okay, let me have a static as well as final variable. Type is in, and maybe I'll say max length is equal to 100. See, here you have made an assignment at the place of declaration. That's the initialization. So this is one way of initializing a class variable. What is the other way of initializing the class variable? Static block. Okay, so another way could have been that, okay, I declare, so this is one way. Okay, so one option is this. Second option is you could have declared the variable like this. Okay, so maybe you done a declaration of the variable. It's not initialized, so this is not initialized, but then we do it in a static block. Okay, fine. Here we can say, okay, is equal to, and whatever, maybe it has been read from a file or whatever way, but yes, initialization will be within a static block. Okay, so initialization is this or this, one of them. You can't be doing at both the places. Okay, so if the variable is final, yes, you do initialization only at one place, not more than one place. But for a static block, for a static variable, fine, there are only two places where initialization may be given, and it is a must. If it is final, it is must to give an initialization. Okay, and one of the two places. Clear? For a static block, and most commonly, yes, actually final is more commonly used with static variables to have constants. Okay, so for example, we have, fine, in the API, okay, we have a class called there's a class called math. Okay, and in this we have a declaration, so it will be something like, so within this class, I'll show you which are the declarations. We have a public static final. Okay, type is double, name of the variable is pi equal to, and they have the terms and initialization. So there is the, if you want to use the value of pi anywhere, yes, you can use it as math.pi. You can't set the value, you can use the value. Okay, another such variable is the epsilon value, E. Euler's constant, not epsilon. It's a Euler's constant. Okay, fine. So there is a Euler's constant, fine, E, and that's also available with the help of math.e. Fine. So this is because these are the entries in the math class. So that's why you can always use them, math.pi, math.e. So mostly for constants, find some kind of a, these are global constants. Okay, so for constants, yes, you would have public static final, fine, because you can keep it public, there's no problem with that, because there is no assignment allowed with them. Okay, fine. Now just think about it, about the final variable. Just declaring any variable as final, does it make it a constant? Okay, let's check that aspect. Okay, so maybe we have our class called rectangle, right? So okay, we did that as a public class rectangle, fine. And in this class, okay, over and above whatever we have declared, let's declare oh, we would like, since it is final, maybe I think it's safe to keep it public. Okay, so we have public static, okay, and I'm making it final. The type of the variable, the data type is, let's say, rectangle, and I'll say unit underscore rectangle is equal to new, and I create a rectangle of 1 by 1. Okay, it's my unit rectangle, and it's a unit rectangle. So what happens, like, is this a constant? So anytime I want a unit rectangle, I'll just say, okay, rectangle dot unit rectangle, I should get a rectangle of 1 by 1. Okay, fine, we feel it's a constant. See, what is here, what is the meaning of final? You cannot reassign a value. Okay, what is not allowed is someone trying dot unit underscore rectangle, okay, equals, and he tries some other rectangle, maybe R2 or maybe something R2, or someone says, okay, let's have a new rectangle and 7 by 5, maybe something like this, and that would be illegal. Okay, and so that's not valid because it is final. Okay, but what is valid? Let's check that. Oh, we have the method that set dimensions, and you could change its dimensions. Assignment is not valid. So if it's a reference type, okay, understand, mainly this is concerning the reference type. Okay, if the final variable is a type which is a reference type, then it's not allowed to reassign a new object. It is referring to an object, and it will keep referring to that object only. It won't be able to refer to a different object. That's the meaning of final for a reference type. Fine. It's up to us to see that our type here does not have methods like set dimensions, which are changing its state. So see, so it doesn't remain a unit rectangle, right? It's not a 1 by 1 all the time, because someone could always be calling the method set dimensions on it and changing the dimensions. Okay, fine. This is we have that word called mutable or immutable, right? So what is meant by immutable? Immutable means the state of the object cannot be changed. Okay, fine. So if we have a method, public method like set dimensions in our rectangle class, then the objects of rectangle are going to be mutable. It's not immutable. Okay, fine. But many times we may have a requirement that our classes should be such that once the object is created, it remains in the same state. Okay, so we do have need for immutable types also. Actually, in fact, the class string class which we have is the objects of the string class are immutable, right? The objects of string class are immutable. Once you have a string object, fine, in that string object, which is made up of a sequence of characters, right, it would not be possible to change that object's state. It is going to remain that particular sequence of characters only. You could use it to create a new string object out of it, but a particular given string object remains in the same state. We have methods in the string class which can say, oh, I can give you a lowercase string, I can give an uppercase string from the string which is given, but then it is always giving us a new object, not the same object. The object is not updated. Okay, fine. So there is something called immutability. Okay, so yes, many classes are there which are immutable type, and we may also like to have, sometimes maybe we'll see how we might have a rectangle type which is immutable type also, right? So for immutability, what should be done in rectangle? Get rid of the methods like set dimensions, or make them private and use them only from the constructor. Okay, fine. Clear meaning of final? Fine, final with reference variable. Okay, fine. It's not, it doesn't mean constant in the sense of, fine. So this is just to see that this is not actually a constant. Okay, because it's final. Yes, it's a constant in the sense that it's always going to be the same object for a reference. For primitives, it's good. Okay, final means constant for primitives. Okay, fine. So final for a static variable, or rather, we understand meaning of final, but initialization for a static variable, one of the two places, either at the place of declaration or in the static block. Okay, let's see for instance variables. Fine. You know, where are the places where initialization can be done? For instance variables, we already know that. Initialization. Fine. One, at the place of declaration. Yeah. Fine. You may say, fine. For example, we had done int length equal to, and we give a value. Okay. Fine. What is the second place? Or creation of object means constructor. Okay. Or before that, okay, it's actually part of the constructor. It could be the initializer block, right? Okay, non-static block, and I'll just say non-static block. Okay, fine. Or constructor. Okay, so yes, you can initialize at one of these three places, and it's a must to initialize, and only at one place. Okay, for if it's a variable is final, it's only for that purpose we are looking at this. Okay, it's with respect to a final variable. If a final variable is there, you'll need to have, it's an instance variable. Yes, you can have a initialization at one of the places. Okay, just think final instance variable. The case could be like this. You have the rectangle class. Okay, so now when we have this rectangle class, it has length and width, two attributes, and someone says, let's add another attribute called color. Okay, so rectangle has a color also. Okay, and then says, okay, but we have one rule. A rectangle, when it is created, will be created with a specific color, and that color cannot be changed. If you have a requirement that once an object of rectangle created with a specific color and the color should not be changeable, okay, then make it final. Okay, you want rectangle to be immutable, what should be done? Declare length and width as final. We have to, whatever attributes are there, just declare them final, it would become immutable. When you declare final, you will need initialization. One of the three places you would have to be doing the initialization, otherwise it won't compile. Okay, final variables need an initialization. Initialization for static variable, there are one of the two places. Okay, and for instance variables, one of the three places. So maybe in the constructor you're setting the value, or in the initializer block, or maybe where you declare there itself. Okay, for instance variable, it may be more meaningful to have the initialization in the constructor. And so instance variables can also be final. Okay, next is we have the which kind of variable? Local variables, or okay, let's look at the parameter variables. Yeah, if it's a parameter variable, yeah. For example, we have the method called public void set dimensions. Okay, set dimensions has parameter, or even the constructor has a parameter. Okay, set dimensions. Let me take that set dimensions, and it takes as parameter length, comma, int width. So if you want, yes, you can declare them to be final. Right? So these could be final. And most of the time, you may actually be wanting to keep them final. You can just declare them final like this. Okay, fine. How is it initialized? How is the length and width initialized? How are they initialized? Right. So see, they come into picture only when someone calls a method, right? Someone says r1 dot set dimensions. Okay, then he is giving a value. So that's the initialization. So the initialization comes because of the invocation. So there's no assignment to a direct, you cannot see an assignment statement to them. Okay, fine. So within the set dimensions method, okay, within this method, let's say if I'm writing a method like this, okay, fine. And that's normally the case, right? Okay, normally whatever parameters we receive, we just use them, right? We don't update them. Okay, most of the time it would be like this. So therefore, yes, this is our fine. So okay, so fine, this is just to see the initialization. Initialization is by invocation for local variable, for parameter variables. Okay, so initialization for local variables anyway is just the first assignment statement we use. Okay, we understand local variables by default are uninitialized. Okay, so for local variables, okay, the first assignment, okay, so the first assignment statement results in the initialization. Yeah, for so any variable. So for example, yes, you have used what? Let's say we are declaring final rectangle R1. Okay, fine. And then you have done R1 equals new rectangle. Okay. Okay, and later maybe you have some more code, and later somewhere you are saying again R1 equals new rectangle. Okay, that's invalid. Okay, right. So initialization only once. Okay, Fine. So assignment for local variables, that's an assignment you are getting, which will be allowed only once. Clear? So all types of variables which we know about, right? For them, initialization is like this. Okay, and any of them can be declared final. So any variable you have can be declared to be final. In fact, basically, we have the receiving parameter. In the parameters, we have the receiving parameter, and that is actually a final parameter. Though we don't declare, normally we're not supposed to be declaring the receiving parameter, right? We call that this. Okay, the type for this is in rectangle class, it was rectangle. Okay, fine. So you cannot be assigning this equal to and put some rectangle object there. It's a final variable. Okay. Fine. So, fine, clear final, the use of the keyword final. With methods, prevents overriding in a subclass. Okay. With class, no subclassing. It prevents, so it prevents inheritance of a class. It prevents overriding in a subclass. Okay, method overriding in a subclass. And it prevents reassigning the value to a variable. Okay, so use of keyword final should be clear. Okay, fine. So any questions on final? The keyword final. Yeah. Fine. Because later, yes, we'll see there is another keyword in Java which is nearly opposite of in the meaning, in the sense for the class and methods. The sense for the final is no subclassing and no overriding. And there is a keyword which actually does the opposite of this for the classes and methods. Okay, so we'll come across that. So there's actually a keyword called abstract. Okay, which is opposite in this sense. Fine, and it's not applicable to variables, but it's applicable to classes and methods. And so that one says no, you should have subclass. Okay, final says no subclassing, right? But abstract would say, oh, you should be going for subclassing here. Okay, and abstract method would say, oh, you need to be overriding them. You need to override them. Okay, so the purpose of abstract, we'll come across that later, but yes. Right? So clear about the final keyword.